Hey, and welcome back to another Take 5. This video is going to be about delegates, also called Event Dispatchers in Blueprint. So, basically, an event dispatcher is something that when one class needs to contact another class, but it doesn't want to have any real uh, direct contact, you can use an event dispatcher. The only thing is, you kind of have to they kind of have to have a reference of each other. Like the one that's trying to get the information kind of has to have a reference. But basically, you would come down here, you create an event dispatcher, you can create the name, and over here it's going to give you some information, some different things to choose from. You can ask basically you can put in inputs if you want to pass some information. In this case, I'm going to pass an integer through. So you don't have to pass integers. You don't have to pass any values. You could call an event dispatcher, which would be basically saying class A wants to broadcast to class B that such and such happened, and class B needs to do something while that happens. It's kind of like sending a signal over the radio, and somebody in their car is listening to it, right? They're going to turn on their speaker because somebody at the radio station is playing a cool song and they want to hear it. So they're going to do something. They're going to turn their volume up, right? So what happens is basically there's setup for it. So let's say this is class B that wants to get the information, and let's just imagine that this is a light. And so um, for now, we're going to we're just going to bring this actor out here, and I'm just going to say that well, for now I'm actually going to do it this way because this is easier. So this is not how you're going to do it in real life exactly. When you set it up, it's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a reference to the actor that you need to get the information from. In this case, it's all in the same blueprint, and so I can put a self right here and then pass it into this, and it's going to work because I'm in the same blueprint as where the event dispatcher is. However, if I was calling this from the light and this event dispatcher was in the pawn, you would want this to be the pawn, not self. And so you would say pawn, and then you'd go bind event to on change light intensity. And what that does is now it means that anytime that on change light intensity gets called from the pawn, that it's going to do whatever event you have connected right here. And there's two ways to do this. You can go add custom event right here. And you can add a custom event, and it'll bring out the image of this value that you're trying to pass through. If you're not trying to pass a value, it's not going to bring one out. You can also go here and use a create event, which I just typed create event, from here. And you can organize it better by using this and then just clicking custom event, which is this one right here. And then we can do something when we get that message. So this event's going to run whenever the pawn calls its thing because we're binded here, right? So let's just imagine that this again is the light. Now if we were on the pawn, when we go back to the pawn, the way that the pawn works is, let's take the event dispatcher and just imagine that this was the pawn now, and we'll move this stuff up for a second. You can hit the arrow keys when you highlight blueprints to go up and down, left and right. So let's just say this is the pawn, and let's just imagine that on the event begin of the pawn, we want to wait 5 seconds. So we use what's called a delay here, and then we set the integer, which this is not doesn't need to be here. We would set this integer to, let's say, 2, right? And then now it's 2, and we pass this information in. But this doesn't happen for 5 seconds after begin play. Let's just say we wanted to wait 5 seconds for something to happen to let this value change or do something, and then we wanted to pass that information along to the light. So now, remember, the event begin play of the light binded immediately. So it happened instantly, but we're not passing the call until 5 seconds after. So when it does finally call it here, that information is going to come through from the from the bind, and it's going to call right here and do what it needs to do off of what we have here is a switch. Now you don't have to use a switch, you don't have to do any of this, but I just decided to use what's called a switch. If you don't know what switches are, then it basically allows you to do stuff based on values of an integer or other things. You can do an execution based on each one, and it'll only happen whatever the value is. It'll only do that specific one. Um, so if you're that new to switches, I'll probably go over switches later, so you can probably watch out for that video. But so basically, then yeah, then that broadcast has been successfully received, and it is now going to do the thing that it needs to do, and that is basically a full completion cycle of an event dispatcher. And you can use those all over the place. They're really handy. And in the next video, I'm actually going to talk about blueprint interfaces, which is another thing that's very similar to this. Um, Yet the blueprint interface is interesting in a different way because it's a little bit more handy because you don't have to have any real connection to the actor that you're trying to get information from or send information to. You just it's a lot nicer. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this one up and move on to the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.